Happy Monday. It off. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglosh for the WDMA, searching the world for marketing news every day. And here we are. So let's get over to the news. Quit dinking around here. Okay, Steve Wilkie wrote, everybody loved him as a comment to my comment on Donald Trump. Steve's right. Not everybody knew him. I'd never met him. But he did have a wide diversity of friends. He had an amazing diversity of friends all around the world, and it was well documented. And as I said, he did lots of cameos and other things that the average real estate guy doesn't do. And so, very, very well liked, like I said, until he went and became president, even running for president. I didn't bring this up last week, but, I don't know if you remember, but the first Republican debate, when there was, 20 or something participants, he didn't show up because CNN offered him his own special opposite the Republican candidate debate. And, even then, everybody loved him. I didn't vote for him in that primary because I thought that he was, he had too many diverse friends, that he wasn't really going to do what he said, that he wasn't going to be a conservative. And so, sometimes that can work against you. But, he turned out to really do what he said. So anyway, Steve, thanks for the comment. I do appreciate him. If you do him live, I'd see him live. That one was after the fact, so I didn't comment then. Okay, so let's get over to Fishburne, how same-day delivery works. And a little bit of clickbait here, Tom. This isn't how it really works. This is how it really is. The faster the better, and it better be free when the order's placed. Yeah, it better be free, and it better get here by tomorrow, or maybe even this afternoon. And then we have the predictive AI to optimize the delivery method, and then we have robots and magic and Amazon Prime trying to run down a kid on a scooter. And then it gets to your front door and sits for a week until you finally get around to opening it. Excuse me, I got the hiccups. I don't know how that happened. Anyway, so in 2018, Wall Street Journal columnist Christopher Mims observed, alongside life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, you can now add another inalienable right, 2-day shipping on practically everything, which was the promise that had been made for more than a decade, apparently, on the Prime members. 2-day shipping on practically everything. Of course, this was before Amazon Prime pushed the stakes further to 1-day shipping in 2019, expanded even further this year to same-day shipping in 140 metro areas, and announced its Prime and Prime Air drone delivery later this year in Lockford, California. Of course, Walmart already offers drone delivery to 4 million customers in 6 states. Wow. They didn't offer it to me. I don't even know. I don't think I've ordered. On Black Friday, I got a TV set. It seemed like a pretty good deal. And I did do the pickup at the store, and that worked really well. Because we were in the middle of watching the Lord of the Rings extended versions. We watched the whole thing on Thanksgiving. We start on Thanksgiving and we work into Friday. But anyway, so I could just bop out there and pick it up and bring it home and start watching it. That's kind of what we did. So anyway, when Jeff Bezos, who was the founder of Amazon, introduced Prime in 2005, he called 2-day shipping an indulgent luxury. At the time, the average e-commerce delivery took 8 days. Today, according to McKinsey, 90% of consumers expect 2 to 3 day shipping for every online purchase they make. And I don't think shipping is their expectation. I think it's delivery, 2 to 3 day delivery is what you're hoping for. Now, I typically don't. I don't worry about it much at all. The last time I ordered Earl Grey tea was from Sri Lanka, and I was just happy to get it. In fact, one of the fun parts about ordering and not worrying about the delivery is that when it finally comes, you have no idea what it is. Maybe that's with old age. And you are delighted. It's like Christmas. What could be in this box? What could possibly be in this box? Oh, yeah, I remember. A seal for my toilet plunger or something. You know, oh well, at least there was some excitement in it. If it came the next day or the same day, I mean, what would be the fun in that? So I do think it's gotten a little bit out of hand. I did work for Stanley Tam down in Lima, Ohio, years ago, and I was doing creative consulting, and he said, and I just was telling this story on Thursday with Chuck Moyer, but we were looking at some of their terms and conditions and stuff on the order form, and I said, you don't mention express shipping. Do people call up and say they'd like express shipping? And they said, yeah, they do all the time. And then we say, well, we charge $25 extra, and they say, oh, forget it. Which is another way to sort the real need from the only the fake need. And then they pointed to another line and they said, do you think this is deceptive? We guarantee to ship within 32 working hours. That wasn't delivery. That was just getting it out the door. And I said, 32 working hours. Let me see. If I order on Friday afternoon, that means you promise me you'll get it out the door finally by Friday. I said, that's not much of a promise, to be honest. Why does it take you so long to ship stuff? And I was actually talking with, it was U.S. Plastics, it was B2B, but it was a lot of little plastic bottles and stuff for laboratory use. And so we took a walk. Let's go look at your warehouse. And they had everything distributed around by part number in sequence, so they knew where to find it. But I said, you sell a lot of little inexpensive bottles. Don't most people buy those? Oh yeah, most of those. I said, well, what? Couldn't you fulfill like 80% of your orders with just 20% of your SKUs and small ones? They said, yeah, well, there's a thing called accelerated shipping or something. And you take a gravity feed bin and you put them, in like this so that the stuff falls to the center. And you put your top 20% of your items in those bins. And then you just have your order processing system kick all the orders that can be shipped from those 20% through that funnel, and you can just pick them, pack them, and ship them all at the same time. You think that'll work, John? That's Stanley used to say. I said, yeah, I think so. Anyway, so a couple weeks later, his head of operations calls me up and says, hey, we tried that velocity shipping thing, and we're doing 95% of our orders same day. I said, good for you. And then the catalog, I got a copy of the catalog, because I signed up, and it had a picture of a big FedEx jet going across the cover. We offer FedEx, express shipping. Anyway, so we upped their revenue per piece, even though it was one of the most successful catalogs I'd ever looked at. So anyway, the arms race is a catalyst that every brand, large and small, will have to take into account because it changes the consumer expectations across the board. Right. Okay, and yet it's good to remember that most brands and retailers can't out Amazon. Delivery speed is only one part of the value proposition. As Scott Galloway put it, in the age of Amazon, retailers must leverage assets that Bezos doesn't have. When Amazon zigs, they must zag. Now, the way that ends up working is if you have one big warehouse, if you put all your inventory in one spot, then you have the ability to have a deeper, probably a deeper and wider inventory than the average retailer has space for. So when I was young, I would wear a 33-inch sleeve with a uh, with a 14-inch neck, which is a relatively unusual size to have. And I would go to men's stores and they wouldn't have it. They never would have it. They would start at 15, not 14 and a half. Yeah, 14 and a half. And so I found that Land's End, this is how I got to be loyal Land's End customer. I found that Land's End I could get the 14 and a half neck and the 33 sleeve, and that was, that worked out really well. And it's part of this principle is that they had enough room and enough sales to be able to handle that size. Our average men's store didn't have that many customers, maybe one or two that came in and looking for that, and they only have limited space. So what that means is that the the more you spread out your inventory in terms of locations, the more little warehouses you have, the narrower and the shallower your inventory will be, which requires very, very capable store inventory management, right? Which is partly what happened with the UPC code. It allowed grocery stores to start with to manage their inventory much more effectively because they knew closer to real time what, certainly by the end of the day, what had actually left the store, and so they knew how to replenish it, and that made a lot of sense. Okay, so as Amazon tries to ship same day, they're competing with the retailer who, you go to Walmart, you say I want a bottle of Tums, or I want some shampoo or something, and even in today's supply chain era, you still have stuff on the shelf. You still have choices. You may not be able to get your favorite. They may be out of that, but you can certainly get something. So Amazon is competing with the distributed inventory of Walgreens, for example, or a Walmart, and it's there already. If you really, really need it, you can just get in your car and drive over there. And with Walgreens, it's on every corner. It's in our town. It's in almost everywhere. They're ubiquitous. But even in the smallest towns, there's some store you can get the stuff you need. So Amazon is trying to compete there. Retailers have that. But they don't have the diversity of product. So, I don't know where exactly Tom is. He he neither explained how one day shipping works, but the way it works is that Amazon is going to smaller warehouses, more in-city warehouses, and I have inside information on that one that will remain confidential, but that's how they're doing it, but that on the other hand makes their inventory more limited in any given spot, and so there's a trade-off. Here's the future of e-commerce from Tom. Order Kleenex. Ordering Amazon Basics facial tissue. No, I said Kleenex. Amazon Basics is 50% off the name brand. But I said Kleenex. Kleenex. Here's the weather for Phoenix. Okay, now, I ran across this morning. Can we quantify desire? Under the hood of M&C Saatchi's brand Desire Engine. And that's what they promised. That's not exactly what they delivered. They didn't really tell us exactly how it worked, but they told us kind of conceptually how it worked. And it's actually quite detailed, and I'm going to skip most of it. But the claim is that it allows chief marketers to pinpoint how desire for its brand shifts and in response to what. So it claims to track the causal connections between your inputs and the level of desire people have for your brand. And let's just say I'm skeptical. And here's why. Because desire is contextual. And that's what Tom Fishburne just proved. Desire is related to what you can get, what you need, what's available, what is possible. And so, if we talk enough about drone delivery and dropping it off on your porch, then you might start expecting that. When you look into it, you find out it probably isn't. But there's a famous story of in the British Army that they were essentially doing a forced march through the desert, and they finally came to an oasis where there was a fountain, and the troops were made to stand at attention while the injured and the soldiers worst off were able to take drinks. The officers were afraid that if everybody rushed the fountain, like jumped in maybe, or got pushed in, it would foul the water, stir up all the mud. So to keep it drinkable, they did a very, very orderly way to let people drink, and some of the men were forced to stand at attention for 4 hours within sight of this fountain, having not had anything to drink for days or something like that. And that was the epitome, is told as the epitome of the discipline of the British Army. And you wonder what the level of desire was at that point, right? Do we ever have that level of desire? There's an old Italian saying, which is that hunger makes the best sauce. And there's something to that. If you're really, really hungry, you might even eat things you wouldn't normally eat. I noticed when there was some things were missing at the grocery store at the beginning of the pandemic, I noticed that the dried beans were still plentiful. So I think there'll be something to eat. You may be surprised. Anyway, but according to the proponents of this, removing the leaps of faith, and that word comes from Kierkegaard, who was talking about how your perception of the world and the world is always separated by some degree. What you perceive and what is there, if anything, postmodernists are telling us that even what you think is there is just your own desires to be there, that the world is just your desires mapped out onto a holodeck. Anyway, so they're removing this, and that brands would traditionally make between even well-founded insights and action. That's another issue, is the epistemology of data, which is that data is always historical, and the action required is always to address the future. So there's always a gap between the data you have, which is in the past, and the actions you need to take in the future. And they're claiming to, well, in the modern world, decision makers need evidence. They need to be able to point to value and need to prepare to be taken seriously at the board level. But the board probably knows these issues with epistemology and says, what you really need to do is keep your promises. I want you to tell me what you're going to do based on what you know, but then make sure that it happens. That's what the board wants. If you want a bigger budget, do what you say. Integrity is the bottom line. So have a great day. Like and share. Your friends will know you're smart. I hope that gave you something to think about.